Hey everyone, and welcome to the Heat Press for Profit podcast. This is episode 113. I am Liz Reedy with Stalls, and we'll just give it a few moments to let people join us live. So if you are watching on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, drop where you're tuning in from the chats. I always appreciate and love having great engagement and conversation. So Liz here with Stalls. I live very close to our Stalls Transfer Express location in Menor. So we do have the lovely Carly behind the curtain. So once questions come in, I can answer those live, and she can also answer those questions in the chat. So welcome. Hi, Darren. Topeka, Kansas. Thank you so much for joining us live. Typically, our podcast, the duration is 30 minutes. Sometimes if the topic is super engaging, we can go over. We have that flexibility. But with that being said, sometimes you got to run, pick up the kids from school. A customer walks in. You can always catch us on the replay on our platforms. So, Darren, thank you so much for joining us. Now, as we get started, this topic, as you saw in the title, we're talking about trade shows. We are going beyond the booth, why it's more than just a booth. But before we get started, I am a newer face here on the podcast. You have seen me the last few episodes. I've been handed the torch. So I am now going to be your lovely host every first and third Thursday of the month. Now, keep in mind, there is some flexibility. Sometimes we'll have to reschedule for a Friday. That just depends on who my guest is. But for today, for episode 113, it is me, myself, and I, Liz, here. So just to give a quick background, I have been with Stalls, for almost 8 years now. And before joining the heat printing, apparel, decorating industry, I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know what a heat press was. I direct to garments, sublimate. I was clueless. The closest I can relate to was when I was in Girl Scouts when I was a kid, and I ironed on those patches on my sash. That is the closest. And as we know, we do not iron patches on our garments, right? So fast forward, I was a bartender slash server for 10 years. And there was just a part of me that wanted to see what else was out there. So Transfer Express scooped me up, saw my resume. I started in customer service, answering phones, answering questions, placing orders. So you might have got me on the phone when I first started. 18 months, and then I became a sales rep for Stalls and Transfer Express, selling heat presses and transfers. And within the last 18 months now, I am on the marketing department. So going to trade shows, webinars, doing the podcast now, and anything education, my hands are in the pot. So it is such a wonderful industry to be in. It's challenging, and I am so grateful for all the people, the clients and customers that I have met at trade shows. And with that being said, I'm going to cut myself off and let's talk all things trade shows. So welcome everybody to the Heat Press for Profit podcast hosted by Stalls. Now, this podcast is your go-to for inspiration, for insights of what is going on in the industry. So I do recommend subscribe so you can make sure you get the link and the notification that we are going live, so you don't miss all the good information that we have to share. So let's talk trade shows, why they matter, why they are important. So my very first trade show was in 2019. I don't know how familiar everybody is with a trade show. But back when it was called NBM, I was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in the Transfer Express booth, my very first one. Definitely life-changing. You're on your feet for like 12 hours. So hint, hint, wear your most comfortable shoes when you go to trade shows. But the experience was overwhelming, but also towards the end, I had so much gratitude because customers and that face-to-face interaction and hearing their challenges, hearing their feedback, just representing our brand stalls and showing what we have. So the connections, the partnerships, I highly recommend. So let's go into the why. Now, there's a difference between attending and just browsing online. So I get it. We are in the Amazon effect where you read thousands of reviews. Let's say you're researching to buy a new camera and you're like, well, this review, it got 4 out of 5 stars or all the things. But I think it's a little different when it comes to heat transfers and heat presses, because seeing it in person, we like to touch and feel. We like to know, what does that direct to film feel like? Or if I'm getting a screen print or textures. With apparel, customers want something that's soft and it's comfort. So as you run your business or your brand, you get that hands-on experience. And also, being at a trade show allows you to make those connections. But we'll go into the more of the why a little bit later. So with those networking opportunities, there's a lot of trade shows, and I will have Carly, if you can go ahead and put in the events link. So at stalls.com, we do have the links of all the trade shows coming up. We are nearing towards the end of the year. So typically December, you're really not going to get any trade shows. Holidays, not everyone wants to travel that time. So towards like the mid-November is when those last trade shows will be featured. So when we are meeting vendors and partners and industry peers, the 4 main shows that come to mind is GPX. Thank you, Carly. She just dropped the link for upcoming events. So you have GPX, which stands for Graphics Pro. And then you have Impressions. There is PPAI, which is Promotional Products Association International. And then there's ASI, which is Advertising Specialty Institute. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit about Travel Pro Day with Stalls. I'm going to sneak that one in there. Now, attending a show, it's very important to have an open mind because they can be overwhelming at first. So talk to me in the chat. Anybody here watching live, is this your first time? Like, I want to go to a trade show. I've never been to one. And also drop in the chat if you have been to a trade show, what your experience was like, and maybe share, some feedback like, hey, here's my tip and trick, do XYZ. So, hello, Glenn from Florida. Welcome to the chats. So let's talk about Impressions. Now, Stalls we were there a few weeks ago. It's a big show. So there's equipment, there's different types of heat transfers, there's printers, so direct to garment, there's direct to film, there's sublimation, there's embroidery machines. So it isn't just heat transfers, it's also, equipment. And also, hi Mo, welcome. When you are registering for shows, there's also live education, but we'll get into that in just a minute. So you have Impressions. They are typically three showings a year. You have your East Coast, your West Coast, and down South. So Long Beach, and then there's Atlantic City, and then Dallas, Fort Worth area. Usually it's Fort Worth or Dallas. This past one, they were in Dallas. So you have 3 opportunities, and I highly recommend looking at a map. So that's one of my tips, is seeing who is going to be there. Or you could just be like, you know what? I'm just going for the vibes. Wherever the path leads me is who I want to talk to. But when you go to that website to register, they do have the map, the layout of different companies that are there. And when you click on the company, it will tell you a brief description of, hey, this is what we do. This is what we offer. So Darren says, I usually Let's do this. So Darren says, I usually at least make it to a DAX in Kansas City. Excellent. And I'm trying to get to Long Beach. Darren, we would love to see you at Long Beach. But yes, DAX is another opportunity for a show. It's more small. But listen, even with a smaller size show, 100 vendors or less, it becomes more intimate. Because some of these big shows that are, there's thousands and thousands of people, it's the conversations get a little lengthy. You're trying to squeeze in and look at demos. So there is a pro if you're going to a size show like a DAX or a GPX. And then we talked a little bit about impressions. So GPX, we will be there in Charlotte, North Carolina, and those dates are November. Oh gosh. Carly has the link in the chat, but I believe it's the 5th through the 7th. And then if you are, yes, Glenn, ASI in January, I will be there. And then you have promotional shows. So if you're really big into promotional products, you are a decorator or you're a distributor, I highly recommend your PPAI, which will be coming up in January of 2026, and your ASI shows. So those two are going to be all things promo, your knickknacks, your hard goods, your transfers, your equipment, all the things. Now with ASI, I will speak on that since I'm one of the lead educators for ASI for stalls. And I was on the circuit this past year and it was incredible. We do offer, so the day before the show opens, there's one full day, all education, where you can sit in sessions, hear from certain speakers. So whatever you're interested, it's in equipment, heat transfers, how to advertise your business. The beautiful thing with ASI is it's just not products. They have other people there representing, like if you're trying to expand on social media. So highly encourage you to check out ASI. So I'm there personally leading one day with all education, all things heat printing, heat transfers, what's trending, how to expand your brand, all the things. It is definitely, it's worth it. It's a wonderful long day of education. Bring your snacks and your water. But the one that is upcoming is next week is Printing United. That is the 22nd through the 24th in Orlando next week. So there's still time to make your way. If you have some free time, come by and see us. Now, Printing United, that's the Mac Daddy of the shows. This show has 10,000 plus attendees, hundreds and hundreds of vendors. So this is the show where you bring your best shoes and you bring your best snacks and you write down who you want to see. Because again, with that map layout, it will tell you the booth number and who is represented in that booth. So I highly recommend taking some notes. I always keep my notepad with me too, because you might try to remember everybody there, but let's be real. Life happens. The thought leaves our brain. So if you don't write it down, it's gone. Let me check the chats here. Glenn, okay, Glenn showing us the little, here we go. If you learn more, you earn more. Agreed, Glenn. All right. So here, you can register to attend Printing United for free here. So Carly, she dropped the link for you. All right. So those are going to be some of your main shows. So Impressions, GPX, PPAI, Printing United, and ASI. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Pro Day. Now, if you tuned in, I believe it was last month, Kelly and we talked on Travel Pro Day. Now, Pro Day is it's a 3-hour class that stalls will host the day before a trade show floor opens. Now, we don't do this at every trade show. So when you do register, I mean, we're always putting out emails of when Pro Day will happen, but typically they're at a trade show. We took it on the road. We had the opportunity out in California this past year, and then I myself and Danny Marcario, we were in Greeley, Colorado at Top Shelf Printers that hosted us. So they opened up their space. We brought heat presses, transfers, and different types of garments. And it's just a class where how to make more money, how to make profit. I don't want to share all the details. I don't want to give away all the Pepsi secret, but typically there's between, 30 to 35 people that join us. And it's a really good experience because I kind of like smaller sessions, having that one-on-one conversation with whoever is hosting a class, and it can get overwhelming when you're in a classroom of maybe, 100, 150 people, because you're like, oh, I just want to go talk to that person face to face. There's a long line to talk to them. So the beautiful thing is you have so many opportunities at hand to gain information about the heat printing industry with a trade show. And I'm not going to neglect, podcast, such as myself, coming on here, be like, hey, this is what's trending. Hey, let's talk about insights about technology that's happening in 2026, which we will cover at the end of the year. Watching our YouTube channel. So those are the main shows. Let me check the chats. Oh, perfect. All right. So with that being said, there's hands-on learning. Now, the vendors at the shows, they're wonderful because they're bringing in their heat transfers, they're bringing in their equipment so you can actually get that hands-on learning. Now, I'm going to boast because I work for Stalls. We always bring heat transfers to Heat Apply. So whether it's on a tote bag or a t-shirt, to get that live experience. So seeing the new equipment, seeing new materials, techniques, and seeing what is trending. Because you might have a customer, hey, Liz, I'm looking for something where I can mix some glitter and maybe the direct film transfer. Now, I'm not saying we're going to layer them, but they want to see mixed media, meaning having a direct to film transfer and maybe a glitter highlighting it, something with dimension. We really pride ourselves on picking pieces that are trending, but also that are classic. Trends come and go, but it's also important to understand those classic pieces, a jean jacket, an oversized t-shirt. Crop tops aren't going anywhere. Athleisure wear isn't going anywhere. So, which brings to my next point, trends and inspiration. Sometimes you're stuck in a rut. You're like, I don't know what to show or sell to my customer. I feel like my brain is melting. Come to a trade show, come to a podcast, come to a webinar for that trend and inspiration, spotting what is next in the market. And the wonderful thing is there is something for every niche. So whether you are doing your own brand or you decorate for promotional, for sports, for school, for colleges, there is something for everyone. Now, one of the big reasons attending a trade show, getting closer, there are exclusive deals. So if you are thinking about investing in a new heat press, upgrading, you have to stop at our booth. These deals are only good during a trade show. So if you've had your eye on a certain heat press, you got to get it at a show because we sell our demo models that are still in excellent condition that you can take off the show floor. Now, if you're flying in, I don't know how that might work. I don't know but if you're there in person, drove, that is when you're going to get some really great deals. So when you're at the show, we always have printouts like bundle specials at discount, heat press with some platins, credit to use at Stalls or Transfer Express. So that is another reason when you can only get there in person. So pros and cons, So if you're there in person, you get the deal. If not, but we want to see your face so we can meet you and talk business and hear your stories. Every time I've been to a trade show, I lost count. There's always a few attendees that share their story where they came from nothing, or I was in my basement, I was in my garage with this $100 heat press I found on, at a garage sale, and it's turned into a nice side hustle, or it's turned into, their main business. So moving into, after having, we have exclusive deals, let's kind of talk about how to prepare. But before I get into that, I'm going to take a quick swig of my water. And if there's any questions, this is live and I can answer these questions live. And if I don't have the answer, I will find you the answer. So I'm just going to take a quick sip of my water. Let me look through the chats. Again, from Glenn, if you learn more, you earn more. Put it on a Post-it note. All right. So we talked about how it's important. And I think we can all agree that there is so much value and benefits compared to maybe just browsing online to attending a show. Now, preparing for one, research, bring business cards. Every time someone's got a business card to hand to you, there's networking opportunities. And the really cool thing is it's competitive, especially, certain demographics, I feel like Texas is super saturated, a lot of decorators, especially like East Coast, West Coast. But when I'm in those sessions, they encourage each other. They say, hey, you have a client that needs something embroidered. Why don't you try a patch from Stalls and, XYZ, or they share their knowledge, because we have people in sessions that have just started. Like, I've been doing this for a month. I don't know what I'm doing. But then we have our veterans that like, hey, I've been doing this since 1992. I know all the tips and tricks. Here is my, my LinkedIn, or here's my business card. There's even attendees that they print barcodes on the back of their t-shirt that people can scan, and it goes right to their website. So that's one way they market themselves. Business cards, classy. But people, they'll just put a barcode. They'll print it on their shirt. It's great. And they just scan it. There you go. Now, when you're navigating the floor, so this is where Liz's tips, I wrote them down. Liz's tips and tricks. Bring your most comfortable shoes. Do not buy a new pair of shoes the day before and try to break them in. Now, given we are there for 3 full days, you might just be there for a few hours. But still, be comfortable, be cozy, because you're going to be talking a lot and having a lot of conversations. So not probably the best day to wear your platform shoes unless you're comfortable in them. So bring your most comfortable shoes. My next tip, hydrate. I know it sounds silly, but bring your water bottle. Make sure you have a Gatorade. There are vendors there that offer like snacks and beverages, but stay hydrated. I don't want no one passing out in my booth, okay? Bring a friend. Now, if it's not feasible, if you're just a one-person show, bring yourself. But sometimes it's fun to have a colleague with you, one of your operators, or if you just need a minute to get away from the shop. But it's always fun when you bring a comrade with you. My next tip, I said this before, look beforehand who is going to be exhibiting and write it down. Print out the map, get a map, know who's there. Because above each booth, there is a banner, and it'll say who the company is. It'll have the aisle number. So you will be able to locate. Because trust me, typical shows are between like 10 and 4, 10 or 5. You'd be surprised how quickly the day goes. And you hear the announcer, floor will be closing in 15 minutes. So make sure you have a plan in place. If you're not a planner, Just go. Wherever the wind takes you, whoever you talk to, there's nothing wrong with that either. And my very last tip, now this is the most important. Have fun. Have fun, because most trade shows, there's a happy hour at the usually like at the end of the first day or the second. There's a happy hour where they serve hors d'oeuvres, um, non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages. Might be like some wine, some beer, and sodas, and light snacks where you can kind of decompress, speak with other vendors that attend, and other colleagues and attendees such as yourself. Have a good time. And, if you are staying for the full 2-3 days of a show, you can book a hotel. So it is a nice opportunity sometimes just to step away from the shop and get a new perspective. Honestly, it's nice to get out of the office and to be on the show floor, because it's that face-to-face interaction. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing, what is working for you, direct-to-film transfers, screen printed transfers. Like, what are you currently decorating with your heat press? Do you need a new heat press? Because I can help you. Glenn, if I bring my logo, will they print it on a direct-to-film? No, Glenn, so Glenn is saying, if I bring my logo, will they print it on a direct-to-film transfer? So we wouldn't be able to do, because we don't bring our printing stuff, if that makes sense. And I think I answered your question. Okay. Deborah, can you mention again where, when, time, cost? Okay. So so at stalls.com, under events, it will tell you where it's going to be. And most of the time, if you register, we have a Stalls code that's given. You can get standard registration for free. When it comes to hotels, I don't know. And food. So that brings up another point is, counter in hotel costs, food, gas, if you have to keep things in the books and for bookkeeping purposes, just for that upkeep, just something to keep in mind. I hope that answered your question, Deborah. Becky, I'm totally new, want to learn. Well, Becky, you came to the right place. And I hope one day we'll be able to see you live at a trade show, or, come back on our podcast every other week. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in live. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we are coming close to the end. I hope this was beneficial. When I'm searching for topics and, guests that we have on our podcast, I want to make sure that you'll benefit from it. And I feel like when talking about trade shows, it's been a hot minute, since we kind of talked about them, the importance, kind of get you geared up for 2026. So go to stalls.com, look at the next event is Printing United. So we might not quite have the 2026 calendar up, but it will be soon. But you can even go to the websites, asi.com, impressions.com, PPAI. So if you just go into Google, it'll populate right there for you just to get information. Now, just checking the chats. Perfect. We are doing fantastic on time. So as a bonus, now I said our podcast is only the first and third of each month, the first and third week. We are doing a bonus footage live at Printing United. So I will be there. We are going to go live on the 22nd. So October 22nd at 2:30 TBD. Now it's going to be a little sporadic because Printing United, huge show. We are recording so much content. I'm going to have a special guest from one of our apparel vendors. I'm not going to say the name yet because, like I said, it gets busy. Sometimes we have to pivot, but I will be going live next week at Printing United. smack dab right in our stalls booth. It's going to be very exciting. So fingers crossed that the bandwidth and our internet, everything goes smooth. But don't fret, because if something happens, something hits the fan, it will still be recorded. So I will still be able to bring you the insights, all the action of what is happening in Printing United next week in the beautiful Orlando, Florida. Oh, Glenn, Lobster Fest in Orlando, a great place to eat. Thank you. Maybe I'll have to check that out when I'm in Orlando next week. Thank you for the tip. All right. So that concludes, just the insights about, going to a trade show, going beyond the booth, all the amazing information. Now, again, it can be overwhelming for those of you at first going or even just stepping into this industry. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, if you ask me how to make, a Bahama Mama, I can do that for you, being a previous bartender. But now with the knowledge of heat transfers and equipment, what to use when, how to incorporate this in my business, I'm definitely here to help you, because our goal at Stalls is to build confident and capable decorators. So with that being said, thank you so much. Liz here with Stalls. Thank you for those of you that have watched live, and those of you that are watching the replay. Drop your comments, your questions. We're here to help. And I hope to see some of you maybe next week in Orlando or upcoming ASI trade shows in 2026. Glenn, we will definitely, yes, Glenn, we will see you there. Come say hello at our booth. And I think I wrote down our booth number at Printing United for Stalls is booth number 3276. So Stalls booth is 3276 at Printing United. So we have a lot happening. Bring your friends, bring your best snacks, your best water, and I will see you all on the next Heat Press for Profit podcast next week. Hope you can be there. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you on the next one.